Welcome. I'm glad you're here. We're going to spend some time today with a really foundational concept, something we call alignment architecture. It's at the very core of living a life of integrity, especially under pressure, and we're going to unpack it together.
But first, before we dive in, I want to be really clear about the kind of space we're holding here. This isn't about performing or proving you have the right answers. Think of this as a practice space, a kind of lab for genuine inquiry. It's a space for becoming.
Okay, so let's get right to the heart of it. What are we even talking about when we say alignment? See, it's not some fleeting mood or a temporary good feeling. It's actually a structural condition. It's the real, tangible coherence between what you say you value and what your life is actually physically structured to support. This single idea is the foundation for everything that follows. And that brings us to our first section. We're going to explore what I think is the most common point of failure for well-meaning, high-integrity people, that gap, that space between our good intentions and our actual architecture. It's where our best aspirations so often fall apart. So let's break this down, because this distinction is everything. Intentions, well, they're the concepts, the ideas we like. I value work-life balance, or I really value honest communication. But architecture, that's totally different. That's the lived reality. It's the system of boundaries, habits, and hard decisions you've actually built to protect those values. Your intention is the blueprint. The architecture is the house that can actually withstand a storm. And here is why this is so absolutely crucial. When our values exist only as intentions, with no real structure built around them, they collapse the second any real pressure is applied. Our old autopilot behaviors take over, and our integrity becomes something we only get to practice when it's convenient. Building an architecture is about making integrity your default setting, not a happy accident. Okay, so if that's the problem, how do we actually build this thing? Well, we need a reliable internal operating system to guide our choices, one that doesn't just look for outside approval all the time. And that is exactly where the authority loop comes in. This really gets to the core of the shift we're aiming for. So many of us are running on an external operating system. We're constantly, subconsciously asking, am I allowed to do this? We're looking for permission. But internal authority helps us ask a much more powerful question. Am I aligned? It's a question that sources its answer from a place of deep internal presence, not external validation. And this is the practice itself. The authority loop is a simple 5-stage cycle. First, you sense what's happening, what's true for you in this moment, just the raw data. Then you name it, without all the drama and story. From that clear place, you choose a path forward that's based on your actual values, not on fear. Then you act on that choice. And finally, you integrate what you learned from the outcome, without shame. Every single time you go through this loop, you are building self-trust. So now, let's get really practical. Let's get into the toolkit. Building an architecture like this requires some very specific tools, especially for those moments of high stress. We're going to look at 3: distinguishing data from story, understanding your reactive drift, and designing with load-bearing truths. The first tool is all about discernment. Data is just the objective, irrefutable reality. My heart is racing. We are over budget. I missed the deadline. Just naming the data like that actually calms and stabilizes your nervous system. Stories, on the other hand, are the interpretations we layer on top. I'm going to get fired. I'm a total failure. Stories are what accelerate our threat response. So the key skill here is learning to separate what's actually happening from the story you're telling yourself about it. And here's a little diagnostic for you, a simple way to catch yourself. The story almost always hides right after the word because. For instance, my chest is tight, that's the data, because everyone thinks I'm incompetent. And that's the story. To get back to solid ground, just drop the whole because clause. State the data. My chest is tight. Period. That simple edit can stop a reactive spiral cold. Our second tool is about recognizing something that happens to all of us. It's called reactive drift. And I want to be really clear. This is not a character flaw or a moral feeling. It is a predictable nervous system shift. It's that moment when, under stress, you disconnect from your own internal compass, and your old, practiced autopilot survival strategy just takes the wheel. And these drifts tend to show up in one of 4 main patterns. See if you recognize your own default. Do you drift into proving, where you start over-functioning to demonstrate your worth? Or pleasing, where you abandon what you need to avoid conflict? Maybe it's protecting, where you get defensive and rigid. Or do you drift into withdrawing, where you just shut down and disappear? Just being able to name your default drift is a huge first step toward regaining your footing. And that brings us to our third and final tool, which is all about proactive design. See, if your values are the rooms in your house, then load-bearing truths are like the internal steel beams you install to hold the roof up when the hurricane hits. They are simple, powerful, structural convictions that you design ahead of time to counter the exact pressures that cause you to drift. Now, these are not just feel-good affirmations. They are highly functional tools. For example, if your drift is to please, your load-bearing truth might need to be, "No is safe." If you drift into proving yourself through burnout, yours might be, "Rest is responsible." These truths give you the structural integrity you need to choose your values, especially when it's really, really hard. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground, so let's shift now from the concepts to a moment of quiet, personal application. This is not about judgment or self-critique. I want you to think of this as just a calm, curious inspection of your own internal architecture. So I'm going to invite you to just take a quiet breath and to sit with this one powerful question for a moment. Does my current structure, my actual lived reality, does it match the outcomes I say I want? Is the life I have actually built, truly designed to produce the peace or the connection or the impact that I'm asking for? And here's the thing. The answer to that question isn't found in your feelings or your good intentions. The answer is in the data. Look at your calendar. Look at your bank statement. Look at the boundaries you hold and the ones you let slide. Your habits. These are the true indicators of what your life is actually structured to value. Thank you for being here and doing this work. Whatever came up for you in that moment of reflection, just hold it with care. And for those of you in our community, I invite you to bring these insights into our dialogues. Let's continue to practice together, with presence, with mutual respect, and with a whole lot of space for each other's becoming.